The 49ers are going after Joey Bosa again, and this time it feels different. Let's be clear right from the start. This isn't random off-season smoke. The 49ers pursued Joey Bosa last off-season. That happened. They were in the mix. The price just didn't line up. Buffalo stepped in, went a little higher, and San Francisco pivoted. But now, they're expected to circle back and pursue him again. And if you're paying attention to where this roster stands right now, that makes a whole lot of sense. First, let's talk about the obvious. Nick Bosa is expected to be ready for Week 1. That's the target. That's the plan. And that's massive. If there's any silver lining to the ACL tear, it's that it happened early enough to put him on track for the start of the season. You're getting a top-tier edge rusher back. You're getting the heartbeat of the defensive line back. But here's the problem. One elite pass rusher isn't enough. Last season showed that in painful detail. Injuries exposed the depth. The 49ers finished with the fewest sacks in the league. Yes, health played a huge role. Yes, things spiraled when key pieces went down. But that doesn't erase the fact that this defensive front needs reinforcement. That's where Joey Bosa comes in. Last year there were real questions. Injury history, durability concerns. Was he still the same player? Buffalo took a calculated risk with an incentive-heavy deal worth about $13 million. And you know what? It worked. He played 15 games. He produced 5 sacks, strong pressure numbers, multiple forced fumbles. Most importantly, he stayed on the field. That changes the market. Now teams have proof that Joey Bosa isn't just a name. He's still a functional, productive edge defender. He showed that he can hold up over a full season. And for the 49ers, who were already interested once, that validation matters. The big question is price. Last offseason, San Francisco reportedly wanted him at more of a bargain range, likely under $10 million. Buffalo outbid them. This year, the 49ers are in a different place. They're not just resetting with youth. They're in roster-filling mode. They have around $57 million in cap space. The urgency is higher. The window is open. So let me ask you something. If the 49ers can make it work financially, would you want to see the Bosa brothers lining up on opposite edges in red and gold? Yes or no? Because that's not just a storyline. That's a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. And if you appreciate real, grounded updates without the clickbait nonsense floating around everywhere, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. We're pushing toward 2,000 new subscribers, and we're building this thing the right way, with the faithful. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Even if Nick is back, even if Joey signs, the 49ers still can't just run this defensive line back the way it was constructed before. And that's where the deeper conversation begins. Let's talk about the uncomfortable truth for a minute. Even if Nick Bosa is back for Week 1, even if Joey Bosa signs, even if everything breaks right health-wise, the 49ers cannot afford to run this defensive line back the way it was structured before. Last season wasn't just bad luck, it was exposure. Yes, injuries played a huge role. Nick goes down, Michael Williams goes down. Depth players are suddenly thrust into featured roles they weren't supposed to handle. That domino effect is real. When one starter drops, everyone else slides up a rung. When 2 drop, now you're asking specialists to become every down anchors. That's exactly what happened. Bryce Huff is a perfect example. Early in the season, when he was complimentary, when he could pin his ears back and attack in obvious passing situations, he looked explosive. His get-off was elite. He was closing games. He was playing in that specialized role he was brought in for. But once injuries forced him into a true 3-down role, that's when the production fell off. He had to defend the run. He had to stay on the field every snap. He had to carry a workload he wasn't built for. And over the back half of the season, the sack numbers dried up. That's not an indictment of Bryce Huff. That's a roster construction issue. There are two types of edge defenders in this league. You have your three-down guys, the ones who can defend the run, set the edge, rush the passer, and never come off the field. Nick Bosa is one. Michael Williams was trending toward becoming one. Those players give you structural stability. Then you have your situational pass rushers. They're lethal in the right context. But they need protection. They need rotation. They need other anchors around them. The 49ers didn't have enough anchors. And here's where it gets even more important. With Raheem Morris stepping in as defensive coordinator, there's a real possibility this scheme shifts toward more five-man fronts. Around the league, those are becoming more common because offenses are leaning back into the run game. If you want to counter that, you need bodies. You need depth. You need versatility. Five-man fronts demand defensive line depth. You can't run that system with thin rotations. So now zoom out. You've got two defensive ends coming off ACL injuries. You've got depth that struggled when elevated. You've got a scheme that may demand even more from the front. And you've got $57 million in cap space. This isn't a maybe add a piece situation. This is a you have to fortify this group situation. And that means veterans. You can draft talent. You should draft talent. But rookies take time. They make mistakes. They're inconsistent. If your goal is to compete right now, you need proven bodies in that room. So let me ask you this. If you had to choose one priority this offseason, which matters more, edge rusher or defensive tackle? Drop it in the comments. I want to see where you stand. Because interior pressure matters too. When the defensive tackles collapsed last season, quarterbacks stepped up. The edges couldn't finish. It all connects. And this is where I want to pause for a second and talk directly to you, the faithful. If you've been riding with this channel, you already know we don't sugarcoat things. We break it down honestly. We dig into roster structure. We look at cap space. We look at scheme fit. And we do it because we all want the same thing, another Lombardi trophy. So if you're part of this family and you want to fuel that quest for the next Super Bowl, this is your moment. Use the super thanks or the hype feature below. Not as a donation. Think of it as fueling the production, fueling better breakdowns, better coverage, better content for this community. Every bit goes right back into making this channel stronger for the faithful. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. We're pushing toward 2,000 new subscribers. Be part of it. Turn on notifications. Stay locked in, because what we're about to talk about next, that's where things really get interesting. If Joey Bosa isn't the movie, or if the price gets driven up, who are the realistic alternatives? And how aggressive should the 49ers really be? Now let's open this up. Because as much as the Joey Bosa storyline makes sense, the 49ers cannot lock themselves into one outcome. Smart teams investigate everything. They apply pressure. They monitor the market. And then they strike when the numbers make sense. So, who else is realistically on the table? Start with Trey Hendrickson. On paper, that name jumps out. Productive, proven, disruptive. But here's the issue. Health and contract complexity. A franchise tag for an edge rusher is massive. If Cincinnati tags him and tries to trade him, you're talking about real money and real draft capital. And we just saw how dangerous it can be to give up premium picks for a player dealing with injury uncertainty. That risk is real. Then you've got Khalil Mack. Big name. Big resume. But he's about to be 35. You have to ask yourself, how many high-impact seasons are left? If the 49ers are going to spend, are they spending for 1 year? Or are they spending for stability? Leonard Floyd, Hassan Reddick. Veterans who can still rush the passer, but again, it comes down to role and price. If you're overpaying for a situational player, you're repeating last year's structural mistake. Now here's an interesting one. Boy Mafe. Younger. Explosive. A player the 49ers previously showed interest in before the draft a few years back. If he becomes available, that's the type of upside move that bridges the present and the future. Not a splash headline, but potentially a long-term solution. And then there's the blockbuster conversation, Max Crosby. Every offseason, that name floats around. And if you're the 49ers, of course you call. Of course you ask. They've shown they're aggressive before. They traded for Christian McCaffrey. They traded for Trent Williams. They've swung big when the value aligned. But here's the reality. The Raiders' rumored asking price? 2 first-round picks and a star player. That's steep, and if nobody meets that number, Las Vegas has no reason to move him. He's under contract. They can wait. That's why it's so hard to pull off blockbuster deals in the NFL. You have to want the player, but you can't be reckless. Let me throw this at you. If you had to pick one path, sign Joey Bosa, trade for Max Crosby, or draft and develop the next guy. Which direction are you going? Drop it in the comments, because this decision isn't just about talent. It's about timing. It's about the championship window. Free agency comes first. That's when you plug immediate holes. The draft is where you build depth and future control. And right now, with cap space available and a healthy Nick Bosa expected back, this feels like the year to fortify with a veteran presence. The 49ers have to avoid getting caught in bidding wars. They can't win. They have to know when to tap out. But they also can't sit back while contenders stack pass rushers. Balance. That's the word. And that brings us to the bigger picture. Because this offseason isn't just about one signing. It's about momentum. It's about urgency. It's about whether this organization recognizes that the Super Bowl window is still open and acts like it. Here's the bigger picture. This offseason feels different. Not because of one rumor, not because of one name, but because of where this team stands right now. The championship window isn't closed. It isn't fading. It's still open. But windows don't stay open forever. And the difference between a good roster and a championship roster is usually 1 or 2 aggressive, calculated moves. Nick Bosa coming back for Week 1 is massive. That alone changes the tone of this defense. But pairing him with another legitimate, dependable edge presence? That's how you change the math for opposing offenses. That's how you protect your secondary. That's how you make life easier on everyone behind the front 4. Or 5, if Raheem Morris leans into those heavier fronts. And this front office has shown you before that they're not afraid to act. They traded for Christian McCaffrey when people questioned the cost. They went and got Trent Williams. They've signed premium free agents when the moment demanded it. This isn't a passive organization. So the real question becomes this: do they see this offseason as a reset year or as a push year? Because with around $57 million in cap space, returning stars, and lessons learned from last season's injury spiral, this is the kind of moment that defines eras. You either fortify the weaknesses, or you hope development alone carries you. And hope is not a strategy. Now imagine this scenario for a second. It's Week 1. Nick Bosa is back. The defensive line is deeper, more stable, more physical. You're rotating real 3-down players. The run defense is tighter. The pass rush is fresher in the fourth quarter. That's the blueprint. And yes, the idea of the Bosa brothers lining up together isn't just sentimental. It's strategic. It forces protections to shift. It forces offenses to adjust. It creates one-on-one opportunities across the front. That's how you tilt games. But none of it happens without decisive action. So I'll leave you with this. Is this the offseason that puts the 49ers back on top? Yes or no? Drop it below. I want to hear your conviction. If you've been rocking with this channel, you already know. We're going to cover every twist of free agency, every rumor, every combine whisper, every cap move. And we're doing it for the faithful. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Help us push toward 2,000 new subscribers and keep this community growing the right way. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you want to take it one step further, use the Super Thanks or the Hype feature below. Not as a donation. Think of it as fueling the quest for the next Super Bowl trophy. Every bit supports better coverage, better breakdowns, and more content for this community. This off-season is just getting started. Stay locked in.